Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Nine, eight, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Thanks for being with us. Glad to be with you. A little bit of an interesting start to today's show. If you join us each and every day, you would have noticed something different about today and the way that we started the show. Just because something different happens every day, technologically speaking. And it's a one-man operation where we have a lot of different technologies to deal with each and every day. And sometimes things happen. I am actually surprised it happens as smoothly as it does. But we had a bit of a glitch yesterday. We had to use a backup device, and it had a few issues with it. So we ended up getting half a show in. So I apologize for all of those listening or watching on live stream. But on the radio, we actually continued with the show. And then something technologically happened after that, and everything was dead air on the radio after our show. Nothing that we did on our end, but just something happened. Just seems a lot of things can happen with technology these days. But again, the miracle that is Sudbury News Talk on CKLU and on streaming on social media is indeed that a miracle. On how we're able to put everything together to make this show happen each and every day. So all of you being on here, we really appreciate you and being with us since the beginning, or if you're just joining us recently, we appreciate you from whether you're in Sudbury or from around the world. We are on CKLU on the radio. We're also on CKLU.ca streaming, and you can download the Radio Player Canada app, and you can listen to us anywhere, anytime on your favorite device. Also, we're streaming in video on Facebook.com/Sudbury News, YouTube.com/Sudbury News. We're trying to get her done as best we can and do this thing, which is a community conversation about events, issues, things that we find that we're passionate about, that we care about, things that are going on in our city. We do our best to cover weather, sports, and then news headlines, whether they're local or they have a larger impact, global or regional. We try to cover those things, and a lot of times we'll try to take an issue that's going on, and there's lots to talk about. It's a hard thing to reduce all of what's going on locally and abroad into an hour-long discussion. Hopefully, at some point in time, we'll be able to expand and have more conversations. Be able to unpack things and not have to fit it into just an hour. But for now, it is what it is. And thanks for joining us. Monique, thanks for being with us. We're really grateful that you're here. Hope you're having a great Friday. Judy as well. Thanks for joining us. Good morning. And Denise, good morning. Thanks for being with us. It's sun shining. We'll get into that in a few moments with the weather. Good morning. Wishing everyone a wonderful Mother's Day weekend. Yes, that is part of the news that we're going to be covering. It is Mother's Day weekend, and just in case this is the first time you're hearing it, yes, you'll have to make sure to go grab a card or make some plans to celebrate your favorite mother in your life. Monique, good morning. Thanks for being with us. Good rising. Wow, that's interesting. Appreciate that. Yes, as most of us are just rising. Got to roll with it. So glad we're able to gather here together. For sure. Definitely. It's a gathering place. Belinda, thanks for being with us this morning. That's what the idea of the show was in the beginning, was just to have a conversation in the morning surrounding the news, basically, and try and keep it positive. Happy Friday, Pam. And good morning, David. Stay safe as usual. And Vin, morning. You guys all have your own way of saying good morning, and just that little slice of individuality is really cool from my end to be here with you each and every morning. So it's pretty awesome. And Jerome, good morning, and thank you for your dedication, brother. Oh my, thank you. I appreciate that, and thank you for being on. And with that, let's just get in. There's lots of stuff to talk about, and we might have some unpacking to do. Good morning, Mona. Thanks for being with us today. Hope you're having a good Mother's Day Friday, just before Mother's Day. And sun is shining so far, so let's get into that, and we'll see if that's what we can expect for the rest of the day and through the weekend and all things weather. We'll be back with some weather right after this. And Sudbury Weather brought to you by sudburyweather.ca, where you can catch all things Sudbury weather. Lands on our sudbury.news website. If you have any comments or suggestions for the website, how to make it better, we really appreciate that. Just you can message us. You can email us at sudburynews@gmail.com, or you can messenger us on our Facebook Messenger. 9 degrees currently, partly cloudy, and today we can expect a mix of sun and cloud, 30% chance of showers, in the afternoon. Did you see yesterday? It was exactly what they predicted. And I thought, oh, this isn't going to happen. It said sunny in the morning, and then it was going to be, chance of thunder showers in the afternoon. I was like, until 12 noon, I was looking up, and there wasn't a single cloud in the skies, totally blue skies. Like, thunderstorms, how's this going to happen? Well, it happened, and it came down pretty hard where I was. Anyways, the rain. So today, mix of sun and cloud, 30% chance of showers in the afternoon. Wind becoming north, 20 kilometers, gusting to 40 early in the morning. High of 22 today. UV index 8 or very high. Tonight, partly cloudy, 30% chance of showers early this evening. Again, clearing before morning. And then Saturday, sunny. High of 17, UV 7 or high. So they're predicting tomorrow, anyways, to be sunny. Your extended forecast. Saturday, like we said, sunny, 17. Sunday, sunny, 20. Monday, chance of showers, high of 22. It's only 30% chance. Mix of sun and cloud for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 17, 20, and 20, respectively, for that. So that is your Sudbury weather. It's brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. We're going to have some great news coming up after our great discussion on the news. I don't know about great news. Depends who you are and what the news is. But I'm sure some of us are going to be happy with some of the news, and some of us are going to be concerned with some of the news we're going to be talking about, and everywhere in between. So make sure to stick with us. Got some sports and some news headlines in your comments right after this. Sudbury Weather brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. Okay, and your Sudbury Sports brought to you by that Sudbury Sports guy. He's Randy Pascal. His website is sudburysports.com. So for all things Sudbury sports, you should go to sudburysports.com. Everything's there for you. Sudbury 5 in action tonight. It's do or die in Windsor of the best of 5 series against the Windsor Express. Sudbury 5 are down 2-1. If they don't win tonight, they are out. They need to win in order to stay alive, and come back for a game. I believe it's on Sunday. And so hopefully good luck to the Sudbury 5 tonight. And you could watch that. If you go to the 5.ca, you can check out how to watch the game, and it's online. So that's your Sudbury Sports, brought to you by sudburysports.com. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, much, much more right after this. Okay, so good morning, Shane. Thanks for being with us this morning. Much appreciated. Hope you're having a great Friday. As people jump on, I do my best to get our comments, to read the comments, so that way people on the radio can be part of the conversation, or at least hear what people are saying according to what we're talking about. I can't always do that, but I do my best to share them on the live stream, so that way, even if comments are edited after through whatever means, Facebook moderators, which we're grateful for, by the way, and you're doing a great job. But sometimes the comments are gone through and some are taken down, but I'll do my best to get them up on the screen. That way, at least if you go back and see the video, you'll be able to see everyone's comments, or a good chunk of them. If you have like a paragraph or so, it'll only show the first 2 or 3 lines. That's the capability of the technology that I use. Just to let you know that if you're able to get your comment into a 2-liner, maybe 3 at the most, to have it being able to be seen on the screen. A lot of news here to cover. So we share our stories that we want to talk about on the show on our Facebook news feed. And again, today, I don't know what the theme is going to end up being, but there's a lot of stuff. So first of all, Bill, this is from the Sudbury Star. It's all over the place, by the way. And so that's what I mean. I'm not sure about this theme that's hopefully going to appear at some point. Have a great Friday, Aaron, everyone. Bon matin. Thanks, Diane. Thanks for being on. I hope you're having a great Friday as well. Bill aims to open mines in Ontario more quickly, and the critics say the opposite will happen. So there's this push here to open mines in Northern Ontario as fast as we can, because as we're going electric, we can't get the stuff out of the ground fast enough. And so are we going to perpetuate the process to make it even faster? And then it's kind of counterintuitive. You're trying to save the environment with batteries, but yet you're going to mine the crap out of places. And how are you going to do it environmentally friendly? So it's a bit of a catch-22 here as we're trying to go green. There's a lot of, I think, hypocrisy that we're going to have to figure out along the way of trying to go green. At could possibly be making things worse in some ways. So it's we've decided to go down the road, though. So I guess time will tell how all these things work out. This I thought was interesting. Free fish for free. Well, I guess it's free fish if you're fishing for free this weekend, just in time for Mother's Day. Fishing will be free on May 13th and 14th. This is a fantastic way for families to get out and enjoy one of Ontario's greatest natural resources, says Minister. I don't know if anyone's heard me before talking about my view on politics. I'm not the greatest fan of big government and socialism in general. It's okay, right, for me to have a point of view. Like, we all have points of view, and that's my point of view. And I'm sure I could make good arguments about it. I've heard arguments on the other side too, and how big government helps a lot of things, and there's good points to be made on that. But just this is a little bit pointing to that. So we have to pay in order to fish. I just let that percolate for a bit. Like, we have to pay the government in order to go to lakes that are just here naturally with fish that the government didn't have anything to do with creating or making sure were in the lakes. Well, maybe they stock them after, at some point or whatever, but it's used from your tax dollars to stock them. And then you have to pay in order to play. You have to pay to go fishing. Just odd. So anyways, so that the idea here, it's great. So they go, yay, we can fish for free. But that whole idea is weird in and of itself, I think, that we have to pay to fish in the first place. But it's free for this weekend, so I guess we should be happy with that. Nothing to do with electric vehicles, does it now? Yeah, exactly. Like, there's a lot of things going on with all these movements to go green. You have to wonder, is it really indeed, or could there be people that are benefiting financially that are pushing it, lobbying for it? Is it entirely just to go green? We're not sure. You're totally right on that one. That's the fishing thing, I would think. Fishing is free every day kind of thing, right? Like, you'd hope, you would think that it should be. Anyways, I just thought that was funny and cool. I guess the fact that you have to pay anyways, go fishing for free. You're allowed for 2 days, so you might as well go. Green subsidies. I guess there is a theme here today. Green subsidies, race to the bottom or path to the top? Sudbury.com. I have to give a shout out to Sudbury.com, as their reporting recently seems to be getting to be a little bit more unbiased in their headlines and in their stories. All of a sudden, too, I just noticed it. I noticed they were very left-leaning for as long as I could see. And now it seems to be a little bit more like real journalism, where you're giving two sides and you're asking the question. So you see this, instead of saying green subsidies are great for the economy. That would be a headline if you were to be already favorable to something and spinning an idea. But here, real journalism is taking place, even in the headline. Green subsidies, a race to the bottom or a path to the top? So just that question alone is, to me, what journalism is all about. Questioning things. So are they good or are they bad? So that's journalism. It's not telling you what's right or wrong. Now, green subsidies, this is money they're going to give to corporations to go green. Your tax dollars to corporations, right? So subsidies, because the market itself will not help companies go green, because there's nothing they benefit from by going green. So it has to take your tax dollars, which again is socialism. It's your tax dollars being given to them to help them do something that society's deemed a benefit. So I like the headline here. It's not saying, oh, for sure, the argument's over, there's no doubt they have to be subsidized in order to make our path to the top, which is good journalism. Liberals have made it clear that Canada's road to a greener economy will be paved with billions of dollars in corporate subsidies. And again, good journalism there in the sub headline. So the Liberals have made it clear that they believe Canada's road to a greener economy will be paved with billions of dollars of corporate subsidies. And again, there's not even a spin there. They are saying that, but it's good for the reader when they're reading it. It's an unbiased point of view in terms of journalism. Now, I never opened the story, read the whole story. I can't read 20 whole stories in a half an hour before the show. It's all volunteer, right? But this is for us to later to go in and unpack based on, if we're interested in these stories or not. Nothing's illegal until you get caught. Definition of good business. That's funny. Probably back to the fishing thing. Funny that it's on Mother's Day and could cause sons and husbands to abandon their mothers in their lives. Yeah, mind you, in Sudbury, the women are more than likely to join in. That is true. I thought the same thing, Stephen, as you there as well. It's kind of a guy thing usually to go fishing, but I think you're right. There's a lot of outdoors women here in our area. Okay, another Mother's Day thing. This was basically just to remind everyone it was Mother's Day. I saw the story. So consumers opting for in-person shopping instead of shopping online for Mother's Day, according to a report from CTV News. This one garnered a lot of likes and comments. PK Subban's father, who did live in Sudbury a while ago, and was trying to get gambling ads banned from NHL games. You know, there's a big, you watch the playoffs or you've been watching hockey on TV, you notice a big sponsor now are these betting companies, these legal betting companies that are allowed, sports betting, allowed to operate in Ontario and in Canada. Nearly 10 minutes of this junk per game? Come on. So some comments. I agree from Anne. Let's see if I can get more comments up here. Sometimes it takes a while to get comments just to see what people are saying. So, okay, he's so right. The FBI would visit the U.S. NHL teams at training camp and warn players to be aware of who they associate with or who they are seen with. The message was all about gambling in the 60s and 70s and questionable characters who liked being around celebrity. Mr. Subban is correct. If these athletes are supposed to be heroes or role models for kids and some adults as well, it's all about the money, not integrity or ethics. Absolutely, Bernie says as well. So I've also had concerns about them being major sponsors, just making it, you know, even with beer had to be, beer is a large sponsor of hockey and has been for many, many years. And they're highly regulated on what type of commercials they can have and things like that. But I guess it's the world we live in. There's a lot of money to be made. And sometimes that foregoes any of the other concerns that people have. You can't say it's all about the money, really, when it boils down to it. It's usually money or power. And if you're a Scarface fan, it's about getting the woman involved. First you get the money, then you get the power, and then you get the woman. So that's according to Al Pacino's character in the 1980s movie Scarface. So I think there's some truth in that. Sports is rigged, and I've heard a lot of arguments on that as well. Some really trusting sources, and it's unbelievable. Like, we think, how could you rig sports? Because there's so many unknown things in there. How could you actually predict the outcome of sports? But they do it somehow. I don't know all the ins and outs about it, but they are able to do it. I agree with Mr. Subban. Yes, correct. It's dangerous. I mean, really think about it. Let's think about it. If you were to bet on each sports, like to get into betting, I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine about this yesterday. I said, what do you think the odds are for the Leafs to come back and beat Florida? Better yet, what do you think the odds are right now for the Leafs to come back, beat Florida, and win the Stanley Cup? If you bet like 10 grand on that, guess what the return possibly could be? It'd be ginormous. But then you think, well, who has 10 grand to spend on a bet like that? And then once you think of, if you just got into betting all the time, like eventually you're going to lose all your money. Like I can't see you being a serial bettor and coming out on top with all of the things that have to do with sports. And yes, the argument that it is in fact manipulated to the point where they already know the outcome somehow. And I don't know how they do it, really, but it is a thing. You know, soccer has gotten caught with this in 70s, I think, college basketball as well. And that's where the movie Goodfellas comes from. The main character, he was outing the mafia's involvement in college basketball. So very interesting stuff. Documents related to Canadian Forces propaganda program have disappeared. Wow. I wonder where they went. There's an investigation, though, underway. There's an investigation so everyone can feel at ease. They're investigating it. they're investigating the documents related to Canadian Forces propaganda program. That in and of itself needs some deep diving, and hopefully I can get a chance to go back and read more about that. The seedy side of sports. Yes, exactly. One day we'll be able to peel back the curtain and see what's behind. Scripted sports for max profit. And a lot of players got involved in that too, like not just what's his nose from the Phillies, Pete Rose. There's been a few NHLers got their hands slapped over the years for actually betting. So let's say you put $100,000 bet on winning or losing, and you were part of the team. Let's say you're the coach and you bet, and you did you did a part because you were influencing the game to influence the outcome, and you got rich off one bet or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's just there needs to be a lot more looked into with this type of thing as sports betting comes out of the dark, the mafia end of things, and more mainstream. There's just companies that are legal now doing what the mafia has been doing for years. Let's check Trudeau's trunk. That's what Biden did. Well, there you go. So let's check out, see if anyone knows where these propaganda program documents have gone. If you know anything, call the tips line, 222-TIPS, Crime Stoppers. And they'll go and investigate those that have helped those documents to disappear. No, that would never happen. But anyways, Council, back to Sudbury, Council to consider changing City of Greater Sudbury's budget process. So this is, again, the idea that they're, instead of just having yearly budgets, that they're going to look more into the future on how to, let's just make a 3-year budget. And then if we need to massage things along the way, we will. It'll save time and resources and things. So it's pretty controversial because a lot of things change in a year, and you have to make a lot of different accommodations for different things. And so, but they're looking into it, possibly instead of just a yearly budget going further. I think it was 3 years was proposed. Control of the internet will limit Canadians' free speech. This is from Sudbury Star. With the introduction of Bill C-11, CRTC's role is expanding to encompass control over the internet. Now, liberals are saying, come on, you crazy conspiracy conservatives. That has nothing to do with what we're doing here. It's all about Canadian content. And if you look at the bill, they don't even define what Canadian content is. And I listened to a speech from an MP yesterday that talked about so many Canadian productions. Bryan Adams is not considered Canadian. Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale, even though it was written and all the movie was produced in Canada, filmed and everything, it's not considered Canadian. There's so many other things that aren't considered Canadian through their definition. So the definition is a little skewed, and they can just change it at any time. They can change what is Canadian and what's not based on a whim, and it's people you didn't elect making these decisions. So it's not done through a process, it's not vetted. So pretty crazy stuff, this Bill C-11 and Bill C-18. I had that speech to play, but unfortunately, the Sudbury Star article now has a different video, which we will look into towards the end of the show as well. It's just as good. It's Anthony Fury breaking it down, so we'll get a little bit from that. When will the will of the few greatly try to suppress the will of the many? Well, yeah, no, it is the will of the few suppressing the will of the many. It's the few, you know, that decide what's done for the many, and it always has been that throughout history. We thought things changed around 1776, and they did for a while, and now they're just kind of going back. It's like if you build a sandcastle on the side of the ocean or the water, you build it, it's there for a bit, but then the water just comes in eventually, the tide, and gets rid of your sandcastle. So things will always, human beings are human beings. There are always a few that want absolute power over many, and it usually always goes back to that until it's stopped and some great event happens. History repeating itself. Private investigations to comb through all political liars. Private investigations are where it's at. There should be a third party out there that investigates. Always should be. Checks and balances are supposed to be there to keep things real. But there's a huge push these days to circumvent any transparency, any accountability, pretty much. And if you see something different, let me know. I don't see real accountability at top levels or transparency. I don't see it myself. I see Justin Trudeau is accused of something, and then he appoints a good friend of his to investigate him. That doesn't really show me too much accountability. That's just one example of many, many examples. One comes to my head quick. Northern Ontario man charged after trying to use counterfeit money. Okay, keep on the lookout. Police are warning Northern Ontario businesses to carefully check money as they receive it after a man was arrested in Cochrane after trying to use counterfeit bills. So here we go again. So there is a theme today. I guess it's coming. We're going to be talking about, getting rid of these notes, dollars, coins, and what would be some of the arguments to get rid of them, right? There's one. One is they can carry viruses, which we've seen over the last 3 years. So that's a big push, like you don't want dirty money in that sense, not the dirty money of the ethical kind of using money in a nefarious way, but dirty money that's got germs on it. So that's one thing. It can be counterfeited. There's another argument why you need to get rid of that kind of money and go to a digital currency. There's a lot of arguments for it. However, we'll hear maybe some of the dangers of doing that as well in a little bit of a deep dive. So Big Daddy is watching. Big Daddy, that's funny. It's funny, my daughter wanted to watch 1984 yesterday. So we did. And then I had to explain what they were trying to say. Because she's like, why is this like that? Well, I said, well, they knew in the future it would be like this. So this is what's happening today. That's what they were trying to show. So the outcome is the same. It's just it doesn't happen exactly like the author intended. So we're at a good conversation around that. Not only in Canada. Yeah, exactly. So moving on, Manitoulin OPP officers seized over 25 kilograms of suspected methamphetamine and over 15 grams of suspected cocaine. Sable Spanish Rivers Township 2 days ago. $3.7 million worth of suspected drugs seized by Manitoulin OPP. That is a lot of drugs. A lot of money there. Digital currency gives the government too much power. Yeah, we'll look into that danger. Good morning, Tracy. Thanks for being with us. Hope everyone is having a wonderful sunshine day. I am, for sure. I'm going to have a good day today, no matter what. Construction over the Bridge of Nations has like sign after sign after sign after sign. So make sure if you're driving through there, take a second and read some of the signs. It might be important. So a lot of people saying, well, that's a lot of signs, a lot to read while you're driving. Hard to see signs with one eye on potholes and the other on the bumper in front of you. That's Doug. Comment there. Comment here. Cash is king. Like cash. Stop offline. Sorry, cash is king. Use cash. Shop offline. You can see how bad my eyes are. I had to look at the larger text over there. Thank you, Jerome, for that. And that is very true. If you want to keep cash alive, look, it looks like we're trying to keep a lot of things alive. We're trying to keep our sandcastle intact with the water coming in and the tides coming in. You're trying to keep your sandcastle intact. That's what it feels like with our society. Our society is a sandcastle. And there's a wave coming in. It almost seems uncontrollable. That's just going to wipe your sandcastle away. And you make one barrier, and then the water seems to find another way to come in. And every little barrier you make, it and then it just keeps rising and rising, and eventually your sandcastle is wiped out. I hope that's an okay analogy. I'm not always the greatest at analogies. Sudbury Hospital not able to use all of its operating rooms. Staff shortages means of Health Sciences North's 17 surgical suites. Sorry, staff shortages, it means that of the 17 of Health Science North surgical suites, only 13 are being used. So there's 4 surgical suites that are not being used. Franz Jelena says that's due to staff shortages due to not enough doctors in Ontario. And the Ford government is looking at possibly privatization of certain aspects of healthcare to get rid of the bottleneck. It's controversial. A lot of us believe in universal healthcare, and we'll go to our grave defending it probably sooner than somebody who doesn't live in an area with socialized healthcare. A little jab there, whatever. I'm a fan of the free market myself. I think people do a better job when they're more accountable. And speaking of that, heard on CBC, I believe it was, talking about raising the taxes, putting a tax on beverages like cans and juice boxes and things like that. So that way, and it's going to start June 1st. So your pop is going to cost more, your juice is going to cost more because they're going to tax it more because it's going to go towards recycling. And then one of the person from an association came on and said, why don't we go back to the days when we used to get you bring your bottle back and you get your deposit back. So you put a deposit down, and then you're encouraged to bring the cans in or the bottles in, and it encourages the companies themselves to reuse their own products they put out, which was a great. So you would think that's the system we would go with. Now that has a lot of accountability to the people that are involved. It's a great system that way. Now they just want to put a tax on it, and they're telling us the tax is going to go towards recycling, and we're just going to have to trust them. See, that's what I don't like about socialism. You say you're going to tax people for something, and then you say, trust me, I'm going to use the tax dollars for what I'm saying. Whereas in a more open, transparent, free market system, which way it's supposed to be, not the crony version, because that gets corrupt as well, but in the one that works, like a toll road. You use the toll road, you pay for getting on the road because all the users of that road pay $2, let's say, to get on and use it. And then the money from your $2 goes directly to that road. That's how transparent it is. It can't be any more transparent than that. So the same thing with these taxes. They're telling us it's going to go towards recycling of the bottles and the cans, but we just have to trust them. It's going into a giant pool of money, and they're saying they're increasing our taxes to solve a problem, but it's not. We don't know whether it's directly going to that or not. We just have to trust the government. And has there ever been one time in history, possibly, where someone from government said something that they were going to do and it never ended up happening? Once, maybe? In all of the governments that ever happened since the beginning of time? Right? So if we were to go back to that system where there's a deposit, so you paid extra 20 cents on your pop, and you get 20 cents back when you bring the bottle back in. So you get the money back you put down, and that pays for the recycling, basically. And the companies themselves can increase their own product if they want to cover the cost they got to go pick up these recycled bottles, and they have to recycle them themselves. It's their product. They should recycle them, right? No? Yeah, it makes sense. On one level. Now, there's arguments against it. So this is the great idea of a conversation. So you can say one side, the other one says the other side. When you shut down the conversation, only one side gets a side, and then they go out and make a solution, and you actually make a law, and you go ahead with it, even though you only had a one-sided conversation. Doesn't really work too well. So Minnick says, rehire the staff that were let go due to mandates. Well, that's a great idea. Meanwhile, the news has never even said that was even part of the problem ever. Not one news mainstream news outlet that I've read has said the mandates were contributing to the problem of the shortages in our medical system. Not one. Meanwhile, like 30% left because of that. That's a big chunk. No, it's due to there's not enough doctors and you are the health critic, right, Franz Jelena? I never heard you said it was due to the mandates. I never heard you come out and say, hey, you need to rehire these people back now that the city of Sudbury even got rid of its vaccine mandate. You can now be hired for the city of Sudbury if you don't have your vaccinations. That's a huge deal to me. Because Sudbury, we're a very socialistic community. We're very socialized, very union town. We think, we're NDP, liberal. We've never voted conservative ever. We only vote NDP and liberal. So we're a socialist community. We're one of the most socialist communities in one of the most socialist provinces in Canada, which is socialist. So it's interesting just to know where you live, just to, if you want to understand politically the climate in which you live, that is true. It's not good or bad. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It just is a fact, right? And I'm saying I don't necessarily have that type of ideology myself. And so sometimes it's refreshing that I don't really agree with big government, one-size-fits-all solutions. And with that, reader poll, Trudeau's unpopularity has risen steadily. Now, this is from Sudbury.com, which I said at the beginning of the show. They've really kind of seemed to take a middle-of-the-road approach just recently on politics, which I really think is great. It's refreshing. Speaking of refreshing, about 7% of Village Media, the owner of the parent company of Sudbury.com, originally started in Sault Ste. Marie, and now they're pretty much all over North America, including owning Sudbury.com. Village Media readers have shifted from a favorable to an unfavorable view of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau since the spring of 2021, a long-standing reader poll suggests. And as I was talking, many comments have been coming in. And so I apologize for that. I'll do my best to get them up onto the screen here as we kind of go in to home base in the show. We got a few things to unpack here. Let's visit Anthony Fury in his take on the whole Bill C-11 thing and maybe why Trudeau's popularity is going down amongst Canadians. It is a trend, and maybe he can give us some insights into why. As I continue to share your comments on the screen, I apologize for those on the radio who are not able to benefit from the conversation that's happening here online. Let's see, where did he go? He's right here, I think. Let's just listen to what he's got to say. We'll be right back.
Trudeau Liberal government's attempts to censor the internet are still very much on the table. And one recent anecdote underscores just how zealous they are, how desperate they are to go ahead with their internet censorship laws and to be so aggressive against their critics. So Bill C-11, that's the piece of legislation that critics from all walks of life and major corporations, individual YouTube creators, yes, politicians, pretty much everybody, you name it, has said this is a flawed piece of legislation because what it will effectively do is give the government eventual power to regulate and therefore censor things that people post to social media, like their YouTube videos. And a whole lot of people saying, this has to be stopped. But the Liberals are charging ahead with it. Now, one thing that's kind of interesting is there are all these times when stories get big in the news and everyone talks about them for a week or two and they're on the talk shows and then they go away and you maybe think, well, okay, because people aren't talking about it anymore because they've exhausted the subject, it means the issue has gone away. But that is not the case with Bill C-11. It's still very much working its way through the system, and it's proceeding now to the Senate where it has Senate committee hearings. Now, Michael Geist is one of the leading experts on this issue. He's a University of Ottawa law professor, and he follows these issues very closely, and he's been paying attention to all the details. Michael Geist, he said that it's good that the Senate committee is offering a bit more nonpartisan, sober second thought with all of this, but pointing out one concern he talks about, it's also in a Globe and Mail story, about witness intimidation. There's one organization that's speaking at committee saying how Bill C-11, bad idea. They have problems with it. They're critics of it. And Liberal MP Chris Biddle and another MP, They sent a letter to the Lobbying Commissioner of Canada trying to suggest that there's something shady and untoward about this organization. And people are saying, hold on a second, this is basically witness intimidation before someone goes forward to a committee trying to get the lobbying commissioner to look into what they're doing. This is not, does it happen? Has it happened before? Sure. This is not a real normal thing to do. And why have their backs up so much against someone who's being critical of this legislation here? I think it's just one other little point that underscores how desperate the Liberals are to ram through this legislation. I mean, what's the rush? What's the big deal? If it is not an internet censorship law, which they continually say it's not, if it's just, workaday government, okay, well, just take your time, proceed normally, proceed politely, respectfully, don't file these complaints against witnesses. But no, apparently they're so desperate. They must get this in. They must ram it through. All critics must be silenced. I wonder why. That in itself, pretty bad sign, is it not?
Yeah, so Dave is wondering why we're playing conservative points of view on the show. It's the only place you'll get a conservative point of view, and that is one of the reasons why. And so a little bit to balance the playing field a little bit and being totally transparent with the idea of knowing it is conservative, right? Saying it beforehand, which you'll never hear on the CBC, someone coming out and saying, this is going to be a liberal point of view. When they talked about Bill C-11, on my ride home from work the other day, the Liberal reporter said, some conservatives think, and that in and of itself is a bit of a danger, right? They didn't have a conservative on to share their point of view. They spoke for them, and they always do. And so here are conservatives speaking for themselves. So you can actually now hear. So, and you can't help it. I'm sure you listen to the CBC, right, Dave? Everyone does. It's the only radio station we have, talk radio. It's a government-sponsored radio. So here's the only chance you're going to get to hear another point of view. Here's another one. So you can take it with a grain of salt if you want, or you can say, oh, it's another point of view. You'll never hear it anywhere else, but you might as well listen to it. So that way, at least you have something to balance the other side with.
Just 12 months ago, if you were concerned about the introduction of a CBDC into the Canadian economy, you were very quickly branded as a conspiracy theorist. But just like all the other conspiracies, this one turns out to be completely true. The Bank of Canada released this video on their YouTube page 2 days ago.
How Canadians pay for everyday things is changing. Some are using less cash in favor of other payment methods. To keep up with the changing ways that people pay, the Bank of Canada is exploring a digital Canadian dollar, also known as a central bank digital currency.
In order to make it seem as though the bank has not developed this technology already and is not prepared to roll it out immediately, the bank has launched their public consultation phase to try and seek input from the Canadian people as to what they think about the introduction of a CBDC. And just by going off of Twitter results, I think it's safe to say that the Canadian people do not want a central bank digital currency under any circumstances. And frankly, why would they? Who wants to be a digital slave and subject to the whims of authoritarians forever? Step right up to the CBDC. It's your gateway to misery and coerced obedience. If not, take the above survey and tell the Bank of Canada where they can shove their digital Canadian dollar. Definitely not voting against a digital Canadian dollar. I'm not okay with surveillance and having my money canceled at the whim of the government. Also, not sure what the benefits are, given it still loses purchasing power. If you think the government freezing bank accounts was easy before, just wait if this hits. This public consultation is phony. You already know that few Canadians would willingly agree to a CBDC. You're using this survey to propagandize the public. Shame on you, Bank of Canada. This is how the Bank of Canada describes a CBDC. Simply put, a digital Canadian dollar would be a digital form of cash in your wallet. Like cash, it would buy the things you need, but the advantage is that you could also use it for online purchases and to transfer money between family and friends. A digital Canadian dollar would not replace cash. We will continue to supply banknotes as long as Canadians want to use them. We don't see a need for a digital dollar right now, but Canada may need one in the future, so we need to get ready. The central bank makes their case for a CBDC quite plainly for every Canadian to see. When cash is no longer accepted, they believe they need to be the ones to create a digital Canadian dollar, even though we already make do without using cash every single day for all of our purchases. We use our debit and credit cards, but for them, you see, that's not enough control. They need complete control. As the Bank of Canada on the survey page writes, People tend to use cash less often these days. Most payments are already digital, such as using debit or credit cards. If this trend continues, there may come a time when cash is not widely accepted in day-to-day transactions. That might be the tipping point when a digital dollar could be needed. They say they don't see a need to issue a digital dollar right now, but they also say in the same survey that they're getting ready in the case that Parliament and the Government of Canada asks them to issue one. Well, surprise, surprise, in Budget 2022, Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland made explicit their intention to introduce a CBDC. In the last several months, for example, there have been a number of high-profile examples, both around the world and here in Canada, where digital assets and cryptocurrencies have been used to avoid global sanctions and fund illegal activities. Budget 2022 announces the government's intention to launch a financial sector legislative review focused on the digitalization of money and maintaining financial sector stability and security. The first phase of the review will be directed at digital currencies, including crypto and stablecoins. And if the alarm bells aren't ringing off in your head as you read that passage, well, something might just be wrong with you.
The government is issuing an order with immediate effect under the Emergencies Act, authorizing Canadian financial institutions to temporarily cease providing financial services where the institution suspects that an account is being used to further the illegal blockades and occupations. This order covers both personal and corporate accounts. As of today, a bank or other financial service provider will be able to immediately freeze or suspend an account without a court order. We are today serving notice. If your truck is being used in these illegal blockades, your corporate accounts will be frozen. The insurance on your vehicle will be suspended.
But don't for a second think that the government's seizure of bank accounts and incursions into private finances stopped at the Freedom Convoy. Just like during the Freedom Convoy, the federal government has activated private banks in Canada to act as the financial enforcement arm of the Trudeau regime. Look at Canadian veteran and podcast host Jeremy Mackenzie, who was debanked by Scotiabank for holding too many unacceptable views.
Yeah, so like I said, calling to give you just the courtesy of a heads up that you will receive a letter kind of early next week letting you know that the bank decided to end their banking relationship with you. The bank determined that this relationship is outside of its risk appetite. So typically we don't call customers in these situations, but I recognize you've been a long time client of the bank, so wanted to call to give you the courtesy of a heads up.
But Canadians are not alone in the fight against CBDCs. This is a global push. Just watch how the then Chancellor of the UK Exchequer and now unelected Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Rishi Sunak, can barely hold in his excitement when discussing CBDCs being introduced into the United Kingdom economy.
I'm proud to say that under the UK's presidency, the group of the world's 7 most advanced economies, the G7, is launching a set of public policy principles for retail central bank digital currencies, CBDCs.
And just a few months ago, the chairman of the United States Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, describes the 4 characteristics of a United States CBDC.
We think that there are 4 characteristics of, if we were to pursue a CBDC, it would at a minimum have the following 4 characteristics. First is intermediated. Second is privacy protected. But third is identity verified. So it would not be anonymous. It would not be an anonymous bearer instrument. And fourth is transferable or interoperable.
Now, of course, not everyone is on board with the tyrannical push to introduce CBDCs into our economy. Don't take my word for how dangerous a CBDC will be. Take the dire warning of American billionaire Steve Forbes.
CBDCs would give officials a powerful tool of control and manipulation. It would be an irresistible drug for central banks trying to direct the economy. If you have undesirable political views, you might not be able to access your money, since traditional cash would be outlawed and your digital cash would be in a government-approved digital wallet. Congress should immediately hold hearings on the subject of central bank digital cash and ban the Fed from creating a digital dollar. Government digital cash is is a formula for tyranny.
There is hope for Canadians, however. Pierre Poilievre in his leadership election stated unequivocally that a Poilievre government would ban a central bank digital currency.
A Poilievre government will ban a central bank digital currency and allow Canadians to have the economic and financial liberty that they deserve.
Now, whether Poilievre actually follows through with that promise if he becomes prime minister is to be seen. He certainly would not be the first politician to lie to the people, but one, of course, can certainly hope. Also,
so again, this is a place where you're able to at least hear where our future is going. It's going to affect your life, whether you live in Sudbury, whether you live in the North Shore, whether you live in Canada, whether you live anywhere in the world. This is the way the world's going. So it's good to know it does affect you as you live locally as well. Here, it's going to affect. So that's Harrison Faulkner. He does a podcast called Ratioed, and it is on the platform of True North News. And so it's a alternative media outlet. And although some people might question why we talk about things like this on the show, it says you will not hear things like that anywhere else, as far as I'm concerned, here locally, unless you're just going on your own and looking. And so I thought these are alternate reporters who are in the same vein as myself. They are receiving money. I'm volunteer, however, and I find the same research that I'm doing, they're also on the same page with a lot of it. And I just appreciate the way he said there was a promise made by Pierre Poilievre, but that is if he keeps his promise or not. Even though he's a conservative and Pierre Poilievre would be the person he would vote for, he's critical of him. And you need to be always critical of those that you vote in and make sure that they are indeed after your best interests and hold them accountable and not just put your trust and faith in them and turn a blind eye to it. It's your life. You need to take control and ownership of it, and you need to be informed. And so we're doing our best within the hour of the volunteer time that I have to have a conversation where we're informing one another about the world we live in locally and abroad. And with that, have a great Mother's Day weekend, everyone. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU, and we'll hope to see you same time, same place on Monday. Have a wonderful Mother's Day weekend. Make sure to enjoy it with the ones you love, and we'll see you soon. Have a safe and wonderful weekend, everyone. Ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.